Hi, everyone, and thank you all for joining this month's edition of BYP's Speaker Circle. We are happy to have you guys join from different locations. We have two amazing speakers joining from two different time zones. We're happy to have them on the call. We have Dr. Marline and we have Miss Ifeoma, amazing speakers joining us this month for the June Speaker Circle. So this month on BYP Speaker Circle, we have another very interesting topic. If you joined us in April, if you joined us in May, we touched different topics from if you were stuck in April, how to move forward. We talked about if you have career regrets, how to overcome them. And this month we have another interesting topic, and we're talking about the money versus fulfillment dilemma, how to balance job satisfaction and financial needs. So most times we've had people make the right career choices, but they feel stuck in between finances. And we've had people drop off finance and chase their vision, their passion. And in few occasions, they end up being bankrupt. Now, the question is it possible to balance it? Can you have the best of both worlds? Can you get the desired money you want in your career? And can you also be fulfilled in your career? That's the question on our minds on this webinar. And we have two amazing speakers with professional experience in finance, amazing authors, career coaching, and they would be sharing not just strategies on how to balance it, but they're sharing real life, because so that's the difference. So we can read books and we can get a lot of answers to our questions, but it's always different when you hear from people with experiences and people with diverse background. And that's why we have Miss Ifeoma Ngwudike and Dr. Marline Duroseau, amazing speakers that will be sharing more light on this topic. Now, if you're new to BYP Network and you have questions on what BYP Network is about, BYP Network was founded in 2016 by Kike Oniwinde Agoro, and our sole purpose is to connect professionals and students globally by offering them visibility, career opportunities, and business support. Now, the reason why BYP was established was because our CEO, Kike Oniwinde, noticed there was a gap. There was a lack of Black representation beyond certain industries. And she wanted to make sure that Black professionals were represented in not just entertainment and sports, but in finance, in the media space, in different areas, because as Black professionals, we're more than just sports professionals, we're more than just being in the sports space and being in the entertainment space. And if we've noticed over the past years, we'll see that we have very talented Black professionals in different career levels, in different areas. And that's what BYP is projecting. So that's why our vision is to change the Black narrative, and which over the past 6 years, we've been able to do so. So now, if you would like to know more about BYP, we have our QR code on the screen. You can scan the QR code to know more about BYP. BYP has different chapters. We have chapters in Lagos, Nigeria. We have chapters in London, New York City, Australia. We have chapters in Channel Islands. So if you are Black professionals in any of this location, you can scan the QR code and be a part of this community. Now, the question on everyone's lips is, why did I register for this webinar? I know most times the topic sounds interesting and you just click on register. And the next question is, why did I actually register for this webinar? And this is the reason why you registered, in case you're unsure. Now, you registered for this webinar because you've asked yourself, should I pursue purpose or paycheck? So that's the number one question. Should I pursue purpose or should I pursue paycheck? Can I have both? So now if you're stuck between doing what you love and earning what you need, then this is the webinar for you. Most times people feel it's difficult to have that word balance between career fulfillment and the monetary value. But I believe our speakers would either prove me wrong or confirm what I'm saying, that it's actually possible to balance finances and career fulfillment. So at the end of this webinar, what you'd expect after conversations with our speakers is that you get real world insights from finance and career experts. You get clarity tools to define your values, goals, and what fulfillment looks like. And you get what actionable strategies for balancing meaningful work with financial security. So now this is a safe space for us to reaccess, reflect, and walk away with renewed confidence in our next space. So now I'll quickly summarize the bios of our amazing speakers, because sincerely, I did have a pre-engagement with them, and hearing them talk about their achievements is inspiring and is encouraging. And I think this is what BYP really wants to project. We do have Black professionals in amazing spaces, leading initiatives that are not just inspiring, but are motivating. So now Miss Ifeoma Ngwudike is a financial strategist, an author, educator, success coach, and a business consultant who is dedicated to helping women, immigrants, professionals, and entrepreneurs achieve financial confidence, career success, and long-term security. Now, Ms. Ifeoma is a chartered professional accountant now who provides what practical financial guidance, smart money strategies, and business and career insights to help people what make informed decisions that create lasting impact. Now, beyond finance, she's passionate about economic empowerment, inclusion, and financial independence, which would help equips individuals, especially women, immigrants, and underrepresented communities, with the knowledge and tools to take control of their financial future. Through her career development, business mentorship, and financial education, she has helped many clients increase their confidence, manage risks, and build a life of choice and opportunity. Now, her approach is practical, innovative, and rooted in real-world experience. Now, Ms. Ifeoma is creating a platform that not just only blends financial education, career development, and strategic consulting, it also what helps ambitious individuals to not just survive, but thrive and own their path to success. Thank you very much, Ms. Ifeoma, for joining. Well, super excited to have you on the webinar this morning from your end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So now we'll take Dr. Marline's amazing bio. Just so I know there's a line that says doctoral candidate. So I did receive this bio before she officially became a doctor. So Dr. Marline Duroseau is a dynamic leadership executive, fertility and confidence coach, and an award-winning author. She's a seasoned CFO and CPA with over 20 years of experience, and she blends what financial expertise with transformational coaching to help women elevate their confidence, navigate life challenges, and lead with purpose. Now, she is a resilience expert who is passionate about what infertility awareness, and has using her lived experience and her groundbreaking research to what amplify underrepresented voices. Dr. Marline is the founder of MCD Business Enterprise and the host of the annual Women Matter Vision event. Through her speaking, coaching, and community work, Dr. Marline empowers others to rise boldly and lead authentically. Thank you very much, Dr. Marline. We're very happy to have you on the webinar this morning, also from your end. Now, this slide is a summary of all what we will be discussing and what is on the mind of everyone on this call. The money versus fulfillment dilemma. So we have money, we have an emoji that is showing us being happy, and we have another one that depicts an emoji with money in it. So the question is, are you supposed to have just one of both words, or can you have what we have in the middle, which is a smiley face with money in your account. So would continue with the conversation on money versus fulfillment dilemma. So my first question is, I'll throw it open to Dr. Marline and Miss Ifeoma. Personally, while growing up, I most times would hear amazing women being asked when they're on panel sessions, oh, how do you manage family and career? And growing up, we heard them use the word, oh, there's balance. But we noticed that over the years, we've heard that narrative change from the word balance to I won't say compromise, but similar to compromise. You hear people explain, oh, when I'm in the office, I give 100% of my time. When I'm at home, I give 100% of my time. So meaning the word we were hearing while growing up, which is balance, is kind of impossible to achieve. So now this leads me to my question before we comment. Can we actually achieve a balance between pursuing your passion and getting the monetary benefits? So this is open to Dr. Marline and Ms. Ifeoma.
Ms. Ifeoma.
Sure. So I know that the word balance, when I think of the word balance personally, I think of, like that scale, like the legal people use, right? Where you have things that are weighing the same and, there is no imbalance. And your question is interesting because I personally do not believe that we can achieve balance in our life. The reason being that we have different seasons in our lives. I would like to think of it more in terms of harmony, right? So when I have like work-life harmony in my life, when I'm pursuing my passion and I'm working, depending on the season that I'm in, then I can live harmoniously with what's happening, understanding that in a particular season, something's got to give, right? So there is no balance in that sense from my perspective. Like I met this woman, and she is a single mom. And so there's this toggle between, okay, I want to really be with my children as they're growing up, but I also have to provide for the family. And then I also have all this other passion that I have. And that was actually giving her a lot of stress, just trying to figure this out. And I'm thinking, well, you just gotta do you at this time of your life. And there's no way you can not work because who else is gonna take care of you and your family? You gotta pay the bills. But then children, they grow so quickly. So you just have to find a way to be able to make things work and understand that it's for a couple of years, this is gonna be a crazy life. But once things kind of get settled, some of the children grow a little bit older, they can help each other. Then you find a different way to be able to hang out with them, but still go to work. So can there ever be a balance? I haven't met that person that has that balance. Go ahead, Dr. Marline.
Yeah, thank you so much. So one of the things that for me, I do agree that there's no official way or an official formula to achieve balance. And I do feel that as I got older and as I am navigating the different seasons in my life, I love how Miss Ifeoma put that, because everything is indeed a season. And certain times you have to be able to focus more on certain areas versus others. Now, it doesn't mean that it's less important, but you have to be able to prioritize. And I think that once women especially are able to say, okay, from this particular time in my life, like when I first became a mom, I struggled a lot, like Miss Ifeoma said, because I was so used to living life a certain way, and now I'm being pulled away to focus on the children, and they needed me. So then I felt, well, I'm failing or I'm not giving enough to this particular aspect of my life. Then the same thing was going on when I was at work, because I'm at work and I'm so used to high performing, doing everything that's needed, staying late and coming early if I need to. But then now I have these little people at home. So what is work going to think about me? So I had to definitely take a step back and reassess and say, okay, the stage that I'm in right now is the stage that I'm in right now. So what can I do to best fit everything like a nice little puzzle? And when you're doing a puzzle, it's kind of like a pie chart. You're going to find where it's going to continually change, because at one point you'll have the piece of the pie is only this large for this part of your life, and then it switches and becomes smaller for another part of your life. And you have to be open and okay with being adaptable, because of being adaptable and be able to pivot is very important. Because if we aren't adaptable and we say, okay, this is how it needs to be because somebody said, or that's what I'm used to, you're not going to find any happiness in all of that either, right? Because like Ms. Ifeoma said earlier, you know, you're going to say, okay, I'm at home and I'm going to give 100%. But if you're not focused on home and you're doing something else and you're thinking about everything else, yes, you're doing the work, but are you fulfilled? Are you happy? You're missing out on the time that you're actually experiencing life because you're thinking about everything else. So I do agree that there is a way to get fulfillment. Being able to find ways to segment your life so that everything fits together and work well together for the season that you're in, and allowing everything to adapt as those seasons change, I think is what will allow you to be present. You'll have self-awareness, and you, my apologies, and then you'll be able to move on to the next thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So from both contributions, what we clearly understand is there are times, there are seasons. So based on the season that you are in, you would prioritize what is important in that particular season. So now, Ms. Ifeoma, I do understand that most of the people you do support are immigrants and underrepresented professionals. So now, how would you advise immigrants and underrepresented professionals to confidently negotiate for better financial opportunities in unfamiliar work environments?
Oh, wow, that's a deep question, and it's a very important one. For me, with the work that I do, it's not just even with underrepresented people. There's lots of people that are underserved. You know, and that means that the doors are not opening for them. They don't have access for them, and most times they do fall into underrepresented people because there's not people like them, you know, where the decisions are being made. And for me, when it comes to how they can navigate and showcase the value that they bring, it all comes down to, first of all, understanding your identity and being very clear, right? That clarity is key. Like, okay, this is who I am. These are my strengths. These are, you know, places where I do not perform well. And so I'm going to play in the fields where I perform better. Because why would I use all my strength? Like if somebody doesn't know math, you know, I know growing up in Nigeria, you know, we like to study. So you go to lessons, you have tutors and all that if you don't do well in math, because like you really have to do well in math. But what if I use that time, like I'm really good in language arts, in literature, and I'm using that time, most of that time, to develop that skill that I already am good at? Can you imagine how great I'll be as a poet, or I don't know, some creative artist, as opposed to really trying to be a good mathematician that I'm never gonna be. So when I work with people that are underrepresented, I tell them they bring so much wealth and value, but they need to identify that themselves, and then knowing that that is their superpower. Because your identity, for me as a Black woman living in a predominantly white community or environment, and not maybe most times being the only person at that table, I got to know what makes me that solid person there. And I would always initiate and use that key for success. Because when I use my voice that way, I know what I'm talking about. I'm already confident because I know what I'm talking about. And how do you build that confidence? Sometimes, we're like, yeah, it's your competency level, but also is it actually a skill set? You just got to learn and practice, and be comfortable in failing forward. Because oftentimes when we fail, we're embarrassed, or when we are rejected, it really stings. But that's okay. Life is full of beds of roses, so there is thorns there. We just learn and move forward, because we cannot grow unless we get uncomfortable. So yes, understand your value. Really understand your identity. If you want to identify yourself as, like, for me, I'm a Black professional woman. I love bold colors, that this is who I am. I don't care what they say, that you have to have your hair this way or whatever. Like, this is me. So then I become known for that. And I always stand boldly in that. And once you know your value and your identity, you won't be struggling too much with confidence, because with confidence, you can really tackle a lot of adversities, a lot of challenges. But then there's people looking up to you, right? So when you know that people are looking up to you, you can't really afford to not lead the way, because automatically you're a leader that way. So that's one way that I do work with people that are underserved and underrepresented, because your minority is actually visible, and that visibility is something that you need to, make sure that it's shining all the time. It's your superpower.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Ifeoma. Find out your strengths and play in the field you perform well in. So with that, you are able to negotiate what you want to earn when it comes to financial or monetary commitments. Now, Dr. Marline, you do have about 20 years experience, and you're currently a CFO. What area, what part in your background actually shaped your approach to your personal fulfillment and leadership? So 20 years is a long time in the career space. So I do understand that you should have experienced some ups and downs. So what actually shaped your approach to personal fulfillment and leadership?
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's a great question, Blessing. It's funny because, yes, I have the over 20 years experience, but I didn't start off where I am now. And that climb, that journey, that mission to get there is definitely part of the personal fulfillment. And I think in life, we all have heard, work hard so you can get what you want, go to school so that you can do, certain things, go to bed on time so that you're not tired in the morning when you wake up. So there are a set of different rules or processes that are instilled in us as we grow. So what I have found now as the CFO and the journey to becoming CFO is that my success and my level of personal fulfillment, it's not just measured by finances, because when you hear about CFO, you hear about money. So what does that mean? Okay, how much money were we able to save the company, right? How did we reduce costs? Did we reduce those costs and not at the expense of the clients, or in our case, the residents that we're serving? How were we able to tap into the change in the market, in our case was COVID-19, to then pivot how we're doing to either sustain our revenue or even increase the revenue? So as a CFO, you're always hearing about the money, the money, the money, right? But what I have found on my journey is that it's not only about what the money is saying, it's about the impact that you're leaving behind. And impact is very important because, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I didn't start off as CFO. I started off as a senior in college, and I was the payroll lady, right? I came in and I took my payroll job very, very seriously. Until today, payroll is very dear to my heart. So as I went from payroll, then I moved over to accounting, and then I moved over into governmental reporting. I moved over into being the assistant to my old boss, which was also my mentor and CFO. I'm realizing that a lot of the staff that went along this journey with me, one of the things that they always say is, every department you went to or every role that you went to, you were able to impact us in some kind of way. You left something behind, whether it's your work ethic, whether it's your ability to juggle the deadlines that you have while also helping us in terms of us being your staff and not brushing us off. And I think that's very important that you talk about the impact, because sometimes we're so wanting to climb the ladder so that we can achieve our own personal fulfillment. We all have our own personal goals. However, it's a reminder you can't get there by yourself, right? You can't get there by yourself, and you're going to encounter different people while you're on your path. And the more you leave a positive impact behind, the more people will want to be in your company. They will want to support you. And as you rise, they support that rise so that you can succeed. Because you can be the boss all you want, but you're the boss of who and the boss of what, right? So definitely my journey to CFO, just reiterated and reminded me that it's not all about financial measurements, but also the impact that I'm leaving behind. And, when I was dealing with all of the huge budgets and revenues that I had to manage, I discovered that having clarity, having a strategy, and having integrity is also important, because if you don't have those three things, especially the integrity, then you're not really fulfilled because you don't have a purpose. What is the purpose of what it is that you're doing? Yes, I'm the CFO, but what is the purpose of that? To me, it involves being a good leader, being a great mentor, while also getting the practical part of my job done too, which is being a good CFO, the person that manages the money. So all of that to say, being able to juggle, for lack of better words, knowing you're still going for your personal fulfillment, not leaving anyone behind, tapping into the strengths that they have so that they can help you along your way, you're leaving an impact. And that impact that I've been able to leave and make is also what helps me get that personal fulfillment in my CFO role.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marline. So what you have shared around personal fulfillment, not tied only to monetary value, leads me to my next question to you. So was there, I know you explained that, you did not just start out being the CFO, you did grow, but was there a moment when you had to choose between money, like in terms of monetary fulfillment, as opposed to personal fulfillment, and what did you learn at that moment?
Oh, wow. Okay, so yes. We live in a world, and we all are aware, money makes everything go around. You can have all the joy and passion and, rigor to go and do everything that you want to do. That's on one side. The other side of that is, in the meantime, you're living in the world where you have to actually live. So to actually live, we need money. So I can tell you that there were times where I felt a little torn between going for the money and saying, you know what, let me forego some of that, or let me do something else, because the passion was always there. So in my case, what I found, the happy medium that helped me, is still remaining at my corporate job, because at the end of the day, you need your money, you need to live. I've already beat that with a dead horse. But how can I still help? And me helping doesn't always have to come with a paycheck. So being that I also have a lived infertility experience, and I suffered with infertility for 15 years, my husband and I, and now that we're at the end of our journey, that passion was still in there. That passion was still in me saying, how can I give back? How can I do more? But then I can't just leave my job, right, to go and do infertility, which one, I don't know where the money is going to come from, who's going to pay me. And with all of those questions, it becomes, how do I live? So what do? I want to become an advocate. I find out about different organizations where I can volunteer my time. So I'm still lending to the passion that I have and giving back and helping others. But then I'm also making sure that financially I'm intact until I get to a point where I can kind of, switch it, where my fertility and entrepreneurship side can grow, but then I still have the stability of my day-to-day job. So what helps me get fulfilled, just to reiterate, I do a lot of volunteer work, and a lot of what people say is, Marlene, we don't know how you do what you do. I sit on numerous boards, some of the boards geared towards the youth. The youth is very important to me. And with that, I'm on the board at my children's school, and that's a volunteer position. It takes up a lot of time. I don't get paid for that, at least not get paid in monetary value, but I'm getting paid in that I'm making an impact. I'm helping the youth. I'm helping push the school's mission forward, and I'm helping the children as possible. So that's, pouring into my purpose. I also am a volunteer board member and CFO for a nonprofit named Filling Empty Wombs. And that is a nonprofit that was created in support of families that are juggling infertility and families like myself who have suffered infant and pregnancy loss. And that's also unpaid. And the only reason I'm making mention to that is specifically because of your question. So it's not like, no, I'm not going to help these, people who need help. I know how it felt to be in that situation, and people need support. People need to be able to have someone they can relate to. So in that, I find a lot of fulfillment and purpose without money in giving back and giving to causes that I know that will help others and continue that legacy along.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Marline. So yes, we can take up voluntary roles to chase our passion, but whatever brings in the money is advisable to still hold on to it while we support our passion the best way that we can. Miss Ifeoma, as a success coach, I do understand that you would have different arrays of clients come to you with different questions and concerns. So what would you tag as the most common money mistakes that you see professionals make, especially when they try to shift careers or start a business?
That's an interesting question. And I think it's actually deep and personal as well for a lot of people. That's why we often call it personal finance. Regardless, even if you're talking of the finances of a business, most businesses are owned by people and run by people. So the same things that apply for personal finance would apply in businesses. When it comes to the mistakes that we often make where money is concerned, is actually financial literacy. A lot of us think we know. We don't know. And so, being humble and actually learn more about how money works and how to make the money that we make work for us. It's very important. So that's the first mistake I think we make when we think we already know everything. Well, we don't. So seeking out the right information from the right source, from licensed individuals, understanding what your own goals and concerns are, because you can't just go and take a plan and a strategy that has been mapped off for somebody else. It may work for that person, but you don't have the same goals with that person. So not having goals and not knowing is one big mistake. There are financial principles that it doesn't matter what you think or don't think of these principles. Principles just are. It's like the law of gravity. Whether you agree or disagree with it, it just does what it does, right? So same thing with financial principles. The very first one I want to address is paying yourself first. I always ask people, why do you go to work? Or why do you run a business? If you're only thinking, I make money, I have to pay my bills, pay this person, buy that thing, like the money is all just going out, then who's gonna take care of you? You're number one in that sense. So always pay yourself first, whether it's a 10% or a 20% or a 5%, it doesn't matter whether it's 10 naira, $10, whatever it is. Pay yourself first. And what does that look like? Oftentimes, when we get money, we tend to distribute it to every other thing and say, okay, whatever is left, I'm going to save. That's a big mistake. The first thing you should do is save. Take out your own and save it for your goals, for your purpose. That's why you're working. And then what is left, you're able to distribute it to all the other things. Of course, there are some things that you must do, like you have to have a house, so you pay your rent or your mortgage and things like that. But there's other things that are discretionary. So you don't, you know, if what you have is little, then you just spend little on those things. But you should always pay yourself first. That's a financial principle. And that's a mistake we make, thinking, okay, I'm just gonna save money after I've paid all those bills, I've done all these things. Then you're never actually gonna be able to save money. So that's one mistake. Another mistake I see people make. So first of all, getting financially literate and educated on what, you know, what does it mean when we talk about money, making money, and what does even the money I make, what can I do with it, no matter how big, no matter how small? Because that's what the wealthy do. They really understand the business of money, and they're very consistent in their practices, which is the second thing I talked about, being very consistent on paying yourself first. When you understand your goals and your concerns, and you're making payments to yourself first to invest in those goals, then you're going to be way further ahead than a lot of people, regardless of how little or how big that you're saving. And then another mistake that we make, I'm very passionate when it comes to financial literacy and financial empowerment, because I believe that is one of the biggest impacts that we can have in our own lives and in other people's lives. It's also putting money aside for emergencies. An emergency is not that there's a big sales or there's this opportunity that just came up. An emergency is an emergency. So if you don't have money put aside for emergencies, when an emergency happens, not an if, it's a when. When they happen, you're gonna struggle and you could get into debt. Like in North America where I live, like debt is a culture. Like we have credit cards, we have, we take mortgages, like everything is, you gotta pay with credit or debt. And so you can easily mortgage yourself and get into emotional stress and relationship breakdowns and all whatnot, if you just don't have emergency fund. And then lastly, I don't know if there's a lot of women on this call, but we tend to shy away from knowing about investments. We should, because that's, how else does money grow? Money works smarter than we do. It doesn't matter if I go get 5 jobs or I do 10 billion things. Money 24/7 is working. Money does not get sick. So understanding about investments is being smart, because that's the way that money works. Money works very smartly, smarter than we could work. So we get the money working for us through investments than we doing all of that hard work. Yeah, we got to bring in the money, but let the money do the hard work.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, all right. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Ifeoma. So you've said a lot about the major mistake being financial literacy. Now, this drives me to my next question. There are many people that are financially educated, but the question on their mind is how, if they are feeling stuck, they're currently feeling stuck between a stable and unfulfilling job and risking something that looks like a meaningful opportunity. What would you advise them to do? So they are aware of, they have financial literacy. They know what to do with their finances. But at this moment, they are stuck between a stable job that is unfulfilling and risking something that looks like a meaningful opportunity. What would be one advice to such person?
Sure. First of all, I will say that for me, I love to learn, so I don't think we ever really know everything that we need to know. So that's one thing. So don't, because if your cup is already full, nothing else can come in, right? So we need to have that growth mindset. There's always something to learn. You never know what you're going to learn from somebody. And then you use, two words that I think are really very critical to the conversation. You talk about stability and then risk. So when it comes to, if you have like a stable job, is that like, was that what you said? The job is unstable, sorry, or was it
No,
stable?
job is stable, but the person is
Stable.
unfulfilled and is considering taking a risk to another job that looks like a good opportunity. So what would be your advice?
Okay, awesome. So yes, oftentimes we all need that stability in our lives, right? We know what comes in when it comes in. It's very comfortable and stable. But then if you're unfulfilled, right, that's a struggle. Because for me, fulfillment looks like contentment, looks like being happy, right? So if you don't have that, that can be a problem. Now you have an opportunity. I think in life, we always have to take calculated risks. Not random risks, it's got to be calculated. So I can share my personal story. So being outside of Nigeria for many decades now, I have 4 children. I didn't have like my parents or aunties or anybody around me when I had my 4 children, all within 6 years. I had to pause my career for 10 full years. That was a calculated risk. A lot of people asked me if I was insane, like how could I just do that? But then I just knew I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be content going to work when I was having those children back to back to back, and they were all so young. But as soon as I was ready, and I knew I had to get back into the workplace, then I prepared myself. That's where things like, if you want to try, you don't have to go like jump all in. I think that it's okay to have a staggered re-entry into a new business or a new opportunity if possible. So what does that look like? Just like Dr. Marline has shared, how she still keeps her corporate job and is able to do other things within the community. That's an option. Another option could be, you do the work and make sure that you build up your emergency fund, like 3 to 6 months of your emergency, so that once you now go and embrace this other opportunity, that you're not also stressed about not having money, right? So there's always options. I think sometimes we think it's either or, black or white. No, there is always options. But it's, first of all, are you ready to take that calculated risk and understand that is a risk? But again, it's for a season. Are you gonna lose some? Yeah, you lose some, you gain some, and that's okay. I think one word that I want to leave people with when it comes to all of those things we're talking about, whether it's balance, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's instability and pursuing your passion, it's permission. Let's just give ourselves permission. Oftentimes we don't give ourselves permission. We think, oh, this person is gonna say this, or this people are gonna look at me this way, or whatever, the whole world is gonna be falling apart. Sorry, the world is actually moving on. They don't look at you that way that you think they look at you. So let's just give ourselves permission to try things, but of course not randomly taking risks, but take that calculated risk. Be very strategic, plan things out as much as possible so that when you go into it, what's the worst thing that can happen? You've planned for the worst thing that can happen, but what's the best thing that could happen? You embrace that as well. So give yourself permission and try.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Ifeoma. Very, very apt response. Give yourself permission while you consider what's the worst that can happen. It's also good to consider what's the best that can happen. I think this would also lead me to my question to Dr. Marline. Now, what Ms. Ifeoma has explained is a scenario where the person is yet to make the decision. So the person is stuck between leaving a stable job that is unfulfilling and moving on to something that looks like a better opportunity. Now, this question to Dr. Marline is, the professional has taken that step, and maybe what the person thought to be a better opportunity bounces back and becomes a career disappointment or causes financial setback. So now what can the person do? What can that professional do to ensure that they don't lose their confidence? Because most times when people make such decision and the next one does not lead them to what they expected, they stay stuck. And even when they see other opportunities arising, because of that fear of the setback or the disappointment that happened, they fail to bounce back. So what would be your advice as a resilience expert to someone who has made that decision and it resulted in disappointment?
Okay, that's a great question, because oftentimes we aim in life to make decisions that we feel are going to be just as successful or just as strong as the passion that we had for even making the decision. But that's a great question, Blessing, because sometimes we don't think about it not working, because it always also goes back to the mindset. Some people tell you, which is a great thing, think positive, because if you think it's not going to work, then it's not going to work. But I want to piggyback off of what Miss Ifeoma said, and I'm going to, go ahead and add a similar response, in the sense that if you've made the decision, it didn't turn out how you had imagined, at this particular point, you don't want to jump blindly out of that decision either. What would be best is to create a transition strategy, right? Now, because you're now in a territory of the unknown, because it's new and you don't really know what to expect or what's going to happen, you definitely have to make that plan so that you can exit and figure out what your options are. Now, the reason why I say that, and Ms. Ifeoma can probably add on to this too, as a career coach myself, if you don't have a plan, and part of your transition plan when you want to leave one position or go and pursue something else, you kind of have to do it the right way. And there's a Haitian proverb. I'm a child of Haitian immigrants. And one of the things they always say is, don't throw away your old pots just because you have new ones, right? We don't know what the capacity of the new ones are. We don't know, how the food is gonna taste when we use the new ones. We just know that it's nice and shiny and new. So in that, how did you leave that old position? Did you resign or transition in a manner that was professional? And if the answer is yes, then maybe you go back there while you then plan for the next time. But oftentimes people don't like to deal with feeling shame. They don't like to deal with the fact that they think they're going backwards, or they hard on themselves because they think they've lost. So they won't, what's the word? They won't pursue that route, that going backwards route. So let's put that to the side. What I would suggest that they do is to create a new transition strategy and figure out a plan, like Ms. Ifeoma said, to see, okay, what's next? I thought this is what I wanted, but it's not what I wanted. Why? Why is it not what you wanted? Are you giving it enough time to figure that out? So we have to make our list of pros and cons so that we can determine truly what is it that's going on. Are you not happy because the fact that it's a change and now it's just simply a change, so you don't know how to deal with it? So in that case, do we give it more time? And one of the things I think that's very important is that deep down inside, we all kind of know what we want to do. It's a question of how we do it. And unfortunately, sometimes, unless you find the right person, like Ms. Ifeoma said, finding the right person to strategize and talk to, it'll be hard to make those decisions because we don't know what's on the other side. But once it's already done, a lot of times you can't go backwards. You can't undo what's already done for the most part. So with that, allow yourself the time to grieve, because sometimes when we do make a bad decision or a decision that's not ideal, you grieve that. We're all human. And if you try to bypass that and not accept it and live in it, you'll never heal in order to now make another clear decision moving forward. So I think it's what I would suggest again is, accept what happened, live in the now, and say, okay, now that I've done this, what's next? Because you need that clarity now to seek out the right help, to seek out the right plan, to seek out deep down inside what is it that I want to do, so I can know what to do next. So you don't want to jump blindly, because no one wants to do that, because then you're just jumping and jumping and jumping. That doesn't help. but then you also don't want to be stuck in fear either. So ideally, you're creating that transition strategy. And if you really don't like where you went, can you maybe leave there and find another part-time opportunity to, finance your income? Because if you left the right way, you would have had a savings, like Ms. Ifeoma said, saved up. So then you're not in that crunch for money. So all of that to say, definitely accept where you are, live in that, because that's part of being resilient, understanding and knowing like, okay, this is where I am. Once you have that acceptance, let's create a plan and let's figure out what to do next so that you don't repeat. And I don't a lot of times call things mistakes and regrets. They're lived experiences. You have this lived experience. I don't like how it turned out. What can I do to prevent this same experience again? Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mani. You said a lot in terms of how to move on. The absolute response is do not remain stuck. So we have to let Ms. Ifeoma go, but just one question before she leaves us. So people we've joined this webinar for over 30 minutes. What is one take home you would give to professionals who have to evaluate job offers? So now, what would you recommend to people who have to evaluate job offers? So it's something beyond just salary. What is one advice you would give to them then would allow you go? Thank you very much, Ms. Ifeoma.
Thanks for that question. Oftentimes we're looking for a new opportunity for a reason. All right, whether it's maybe you've already lost a job or you just need a change, you've come to that place where you need a change. And then you get a job offer and you're excited. I think in that excitement, always remember your reason why. Like if you left the other job because there were things that you didn't like, remember to put that in your conversation and in your negotiation. And if it's, to maybe grow, remember that as well. Is there a growth opportunity really in this new opportunity that I'm about to embrace? It's actually a conversation and it takes two to tango. It's not about you just grabbing an opportunity. You're offering something and the other person or the organization on the other end is offering something to you. So you are a big player in this game. So oftentimes people just remove themselves from it and they're like, oh, thank you so much. No. It's an exchange. You're bringing something, a lot of value, actually. That's why you're being offered that job. So always negotiate, be very strategic, understand, even if it's not about the money that you're being paid, do you want more flexibility in your time? Do you want to work hybrid? Like there is all of those. If you're a mom, like what time do I need to take off, vacation time? There's a lot of things that you can include in your negotiation before you accept a job offer. Don't just leave it outside of the conversation and think, oh, they're just going to give it to me because I'm awesome. No, if you don't talk, people don't know. The worst that can happen is they say no. But if you didn't ask for it, don't expect it to happen. So always understand your value and be able to negotiate to the very end because there's really nothing you can lose.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Ifeoma. We really do appreciate your time and we do understand that you have to drop off due to prior engagement, but we do appreciate your time. We'll just continue the conversation with Dr. Marline before we wrap up. Thank you very
everyone. Much. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And so Dr. Marline, last question to you before people drop off. What would be your take-home advice to Black professionals, to professionals who have heard so many myths surrounding balancing financial success and passion? 20 years is a lot of experience. So I'm sure there are a lot of myths that you heard in your career journey that you've experienced and you've debunked them. So what is one particular myth that people need to know that this is false in their career journey?
It's very important to always remember your why. And just like we discussed that balance word, where really you're in seasons, your why has seasons too. Now, I know in this day and age that we're living in, there is a lot of talk, which is very important, on me. How does this help me? What about me? We're seeing that a lot. But I think that there is a lot of nuance and things to be careful about when we consider me. And that's never to say that you shouldn't put yourself first. That's not what I'm trying to say. Knowing what season you're in and who benefits from you putting yourself first in that season is very important for us to consider, because you may be in a position, in a job, where you're not truly happy. And that goes back to, why aren't you happy? So you have to dig deep into that to understand that, so that you can determine, am I unhappy and unfulfilled to the point where I'm willing to sacrifice income, which will not only benefit me, the money that you make, right, is helping to sustain a family, whether it's a spouse, your parents, a lot of folks help take care of their parents, your children. So at that point, we have to learn that juggling act to say, okay, because I want to make a plan, I know I just can't leave. So I can't only think about me, because if I only thought about me and how I feel now, and this isn't generally speaking, we would just leave. But then who else and what else gets affected or impacted by that decision that you make? So it may be a time where you're feeling that you're sacrificing yourself and I have to do everything for everyone and yeah. And that's true and it's fine, but that's the season that you're in. So when you're ready to go into that next season where you want to put you first, for the literal sense of the word, then you plan that. You know what? I think I'm going to, I don't like that I don't get the 2 weeks off that my children are out of school for Christmas break. So, I'm just going to leave this job because I need another job that gives me that time. Okay, that's great. Because why? Your why in that case is, I want to be able to spend time with my children. But right now, let's think about it. Is it the optimal time? Well, they're only 2 and 3, so they don't understand that the daycare is closed for 2 weeks, So do I jump now or do I stay and say, okay, maybe when they get to middle school, I'm just throwing out an example, that would be the more opportune time to say, if I'm not able to get this time off, I need to figure something else out, So everything is in seasons. Our life is in seasons, and I'm talking a lot about it, but that's because it's all coming to me from different angles, how we have to adjust and pivot based on what season we're in. And in that season doesn't mean that you're neglecting yourself. It doesn't mean that you should let people walk all over you, but you have to be able to sit back and say, what's my why? And is there someone else that would be negatively impacted by the decision that I'm going to make because I'm worried about me? So it's very nuanced. It's very nuanced. Just always remember that if things are bad, they won't stay bad all the time. And sometimes if you are unfulfilled and unhappy, sometimes it's a simple conversation. Have that meeting with your supervisor. Have that meeting with your boss. Talk to your spouse. Seek out the therapist or the career coach to say, how do I address this? Because, I really am not happy about this, but I can't really leave right now, or I can't really make a drastic decision right now. And sometimes a simple conversation, believe it or not, will help that. And that's where the plan comes into place. So it all goes back to making a plan. Pros and cons, what works best for you, what works best for those that depend on you, and having that conversation. If you don't bring it up, they won't know, So.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marline. This last point has summarized everything that this webinar speaks about. we joined this webinar because we had question around balancing fulfillment and the monetary value attached to it. And from the conversations we've had with yourself and Miss Ifeoma, what I believe our take home would be is that there are seasons in our lives. So don't just make that decision just because you feel you need to make it now, or you feel so most times I see people leave a particular job because they're agitated or they're angry with their supervisors without a plan B of where the next salary will be coming from. So if your current season, you need to stay in that job because you have bills to pay, you can take in the shouting, the nagging from your supervisor because you understand that this is a season. There will be a time where you can decide to leave that job and stay at home for 3 months or a month searching for another job because you have your emergency fund. So we may not be able to balance career fulfillment and monetary value that comes with it per season. But what we need to understand is that for every season, when you look at your plan, you prioritize what is important in that season. If the season you are in your career now is the season where you need to get career fulfillment, oh, fine, go ahead with that decision. If you know that it's the season you are in now is the season where you need to get the money in your account, do not feel ashamed, do not feel bad about what people would say. Like Miss Ifeoma said, give yourself permission.
Yes.
So this discussion has been insightful and has been a new learning experience, not just to participants, but also to myself. Thank you very much, Dr. Marline. Thank you, everyone, for joining this call. We really appreciate you. And we do hope that you've taken as much learnings from this as I also have. Do enjoy, for most of us, the rest of the evening, and for others, do have a lovely day ahead. Thank you very much, and bye.